Hello, this is Anisha, Sheth, and with me today is Professor A Narayana. We are going to be discussing Karnataka Social and Educational Survey, which has dominated the public imagination in the state for well over a year now. Before we get to that, I'd like to introduce Professor Narayana. He teaches at Azim Premji University. He started his career as a journalist and then switched to academics. He also writes regularly for various media in both English and Kannada. Welcome, Professor.
Thanks, Anisha.
So there's been a lot of confusion about the survey, and many people think that it's a caste census. And the overall narrative is that the whole point of the survey is to do a head count of various caste populations. So could you explain what the legal background to this is, what the legal basis for the survey is, and what the survey hopes to achieve?
Anyway, thanks again for having me for this discussion, and this is an important issue. And as you mentioned, there are a lot of issues which have become points of confusion. Now, there is some confusion with regard to how it should be called, the nomenclature part, right? So some people in popular discussion, we call it caste census, although it is not primarily a caste census. It is, as you know, is Karnataka Social and Educational Survey 2025. Karnataka Social and Educational Survey 2025. And this is the second one. The first one we had in 2015, and this is the second one. What is the legal basis for this survey is the question, right? The legal basis is the Supreme Court judgment in 1992 in the Mandal case. The judgment clearly says that we do not have any data about the backward classes in the country. And in the absence of the data, you cannot go on extending either positive discrimination measures or socioeconomic measures. So let us have first data. And the judgment suggested that this kind of a survey should be conducted every 10 years. And that is the Supreme Court judgment. And on the basis of this judgment, Karnataka legislated Karnataka Permanent Backward Classes Commission Act 1995. And Section 9 and Section 11 of the Act are relevant here. And Section 9 says that the Commission's tasks, among the Commission's tasks, one is to conduct this survey from time to time. And Section 11 says the backward classes list of the state will have to be revised based on the findings of the survey. So this is the law. But it is not just the law which gives the justification for this exercise. I think there is also a moral justification, which is that if you take the backward classes in the state, that is the largest segment of the population. But if you take their political representation or economic advancement, they lag behind, especially certain sections of the OBCs. Now, here is the question of social justice. Now, in generally in any society, in any country, some individuals may lag behind socially, politically, and economically. And certain measures of economic justice will take care of. But the problem here is that what needs to be done when a group of people, because of their identity, lag behind, not as an individual, but as an entire group, right? And for that, the state will have to take measures, taking into account the identity of the group. Now, here in Karnataka, the OBCs, as I mentioned earlier, that is the largest segment of the population. But you take any measure, whether it is political, economic, or social. Social, of course, they are not socially as disadvantaged as SC, STs. But economically and politically speaking, I think their condition, especially the condition of certain segments of this section, is as worse as that of SC, STs. Now, we do not have any objective data about that. And I think it is high time that the state collected it. And that is what I would say is the moral justification or ethical justification for this. So it is not just the legal justification, there is a strong moral justification also for this exercise.
So many people have refused to participate in the survey. The most prominent among these were Sudha Murthy and Narayan Murthy. Sudha Murthy is a Rajya Sabha MP and Narayan Murthy, as we know, is a founder of Infosys. But I think the commission released data recently and said that around 4-5 lakh people have refused to participate across the state. Okay, to play the devil's advocate, so what if somebody doesn't participate?
Well, now there is a Karnataka High Court ruling which also said that the state government or the commission cannot force anybody to give information. It is all voluntary. To that extent, it is understandable. Now, what will happen if some people do not share the data? A 100% coverage is not what we are looking for anyway, right? Even if certain sections of population, you gave some figure, I don't know, for 14 lakh or 40 lakh or
4 lakh, I think, 4.5 lakh or so.
So now, assuming that so many people have not participated in the survey, it does not affect the overall quality of the data much, at least to my knowledge, because even in the census, even in the general census, 100% coverage has never been achieved. So whether the non-participation is voluntary or involuntary doesn't matter. 100% coverage is not possible in an exercise like this, and therefore if you have the data relating to let us say 80% or 90% of the population of the state, that's good enough for us to get a clear picture of who stands where. Now, if an entire caste group has not participated, then you count that caste out. We'll simply the state or the commission tomorrow can say that as far as this caste is concerned, people have not participated, and therefore this is what we have. But I don't think an entire caste as such is boycotted.
And it's also not possible for us to know.
There was a call by the association of a particular caste in the state to its members not to participate in the survey, but I don't think everyone would have taken it seriously. So some data we will have. So 4 lakh people not participating, or even a larger number of people not participating, should not bother the government or the commission too much, as long as it has some data which is accurate to work on, which will give, because what is the comparison to be made right now for all the measures, all the welfare measures targeted at this class. I'm not even talking about the caste here, to this class, who are backward among the backward castes as well as in general population. Whatever measures the government takes now is based on no data. Okay. And what we have is the data collected by the British in the 1931 census. And that was extrapolated from time to time to arrive at a rough estimate of the population that we have. And so the quantum of preservation in jobs and in education and various socio-economic programs that the government, welfare programs that the government launches from time to time, nothing of this is based on any objective data. And no data is worse than some kind of data, right? Or in some data, part of which is accurate is more, which is more reliable, is better than having no data at all. So the survey will certainly serve up, will meet its objective to a large extent, even if some people boycott it voluntarily for whatever reason.
The narrative set by dominant caste groups in the state is that this entire thing is supposed to be an exercise in counting the populations of various caste groups. Now, so there is also a public fear that we need to show, within various caste groups, that they need to show that their numbers are high, right? Where is this logic coming from? And is there any merit in the fear that the number of the strength of the population will determine backwardness levels?
This is what I called in a discussion the other day an irrational fear of numbers, right? As the number got any relevance, it has some relevance. I'll explain how later. But overall, your question is whether backwardness is a function of numbers. Okay, it is not. So whether you are backward or advanced or forward or where you stand in the socio-economic ladder is not based on your number. The numbers may be very large, but still you may be socially and educationally backward. Numbers may be very small, and there are certain communities in the state, very small number, but then they are far ahead, okay, of the rest. So that is always possible. So therefore, neither the backwardness nor what the state would do to a particular community in terms of socio-economic measures, welfare measures, is not based on entirely numbers. So that part of the fear is irrational. But why number comes into the picture here prominently are for two reasons. One, the quantum of reservation is going to be, people think that the quantum of reservation is going to be decided on the basis of the number. Okay. Second, this is to a large extent this is right. This is right to think so, because if the reservation is going to be decided based on the population, in proportion to the population, then there is some merit in that fear. But it is not, again, this is not going to be based entirely on the number. Again, number and the relative backwardness, both will have to count towards deciding the quantum of reservation in jobs and education for any section of population. But, that fear, at least to that extent, has some valid basis. But the largest fear people have, it is not the people, but certain, sections of certain castes, in the sense the politically aware sections of certain castes, they are worried that their political representation in the future will be affected if their number is shown or their number emerges to be smaller than what they think it is.
Or what they have been claiming.
What they have been claiming, yes, right. Because right now, the situation in Karnataka is that 2-3 castes have political representation disproportionate to their numbers. Everybody knows. Now, but they are also the dominant castes in Karnataka. And if their number is going to be smaller than what has been claimed so far, then they fear that they may have to lose their political representation. Now, logically, this is correct, but then in political reality, this is again is not something that they have any reason to fear for immediately, for the following reason. What is the reason? Now, we know that in our system, in our electoral system, candidates are chosen to contest from various political parties, not based on what number exists for the caste that person represents, right? It is not the basis of the caste which decides, it is not the basis of the strength in terms of numbers that decides the political party's decision to choose a candidate. What is the real basis for the political parties to choose their candidates to contest in elections is the winnability, right? Now, for the time being, everyone knows that the winnability factor is very high among the dominant castes. Okay, so they are politically powerful, they are economically powerful, and they are socially powerful.
But isn't winnability also based on the myth that everybody commonly agrees with, right? That these people that this particular candidate is from the most numerically strong community.
No, we do not know that. We do not know that. If that is the case, the two Okaligas and Lingayats would not have got so many seats, right? Yeah. So their number, Okaligas and Lingayats, their number is much smaller than the OBC number. So why do we have Lingayats and Okaligas have disproportionate representation when compared to their caste population? vis-a-vis OBCs. OBCs constitute almost 50% of the population. And how many are there in the current assembly? 31. What is the 31 in terms of percentage? Maybe in
224.
31 out of 224. Okay. So Lingayats have more than 50. Lokaligas have more than 30. Right. So the largest segment of the population has the least representation. Now, one possibility is that the Lingayats and Vocaligas are concentrated in a particular constituency, whereas OBCs are not. That is true to some extent. But there is another reason, which is that the hold of the dominant caste on the voters of the OBC caste is still dominant, still very, strong. And that is what decides. So you need today, in today's electoral scene, you need money power, you need social power to emerge politically stronger, right? And that OBC castes anyway lack as of today. So in the long run, yes, the numbers, at least there will be some kind of demand from OBC castes for larger number of larger representation. But it will not have an immediate impact on the numbers. In the assembly that we are going to have, the legislative assembly that is going to emerge after 2028 elections also will have the same kind of caste representation as it always been. It's not going to change drastically. But people think that if their numbers are going to be smaller, if the real picture emerges in terms of numbers, then they will politically stand to lose. Yeah. That is the fear which is playing out largely.
When we've discussed the survey previously, you've often mentioned that the social and economic survey is a political exercise and that the government should have treated it as such. You've also said that there's no way that the Siddaramaiah government during its previous tenure could have implemented, even previous tenure or this tenure, could have implemented the 2015 survey, even though the leaked numbers show that OBCs form the largest, social segment of the population. And that they clearly and that OBCs, Dalits and Muslims clearly outnumber the other dominant castes. Now, this brings us to, it's tempting at this point to invite comparisons with Devraj Aras in the 1970s when he was handling the Havanur Commission report, where, he could disregard the objection and the opposition from the dominant castes, even when, Bhimana Khandre, the current forest minister's father, when he burnt a copy of the Havanur Commission in the assembly. But he still disregarded their opposition and went ahead and implemented, at least largely, what the Havanur Commission recommended. So can you talk about why it was possible then and why you're saying that it's not possible now?
So we are talking here about the 2015 survey, the findings of which have not been officially accepted.
Yes.
Okay. In a way, it has been rejected, and now a fresh survey has been ordered. It's a fresh survey, second survey. It's not resurveyed, it's second survey. Now, why was it not possible for the government, or why did the government reject? The government did not give any reasons, but then there was a lot of opposition to the government accepting that survey findings. One, people said it was unscientific. Second, people said that certain castes said that their numbers are shown to be too small when compared to smaller than what they always had known or expected it to be. Now, and people also said that it is 10 years old data. Why, what is the relevance of it now? Then there were counter arguments. People started asking, what is scientific survey? So, scientific nature of the exercise can always be established by the government. So it was conducted in a way, that is statistically valid. Right, the survey covered a large segment of the population, and then they maintained the records, maintained the data, and they involved respectable institutions like IIM, IIMB, and BHEL, BAL, I think, BEL.
BL, I forget which one.
BEL for technological support, etc. So, therefore, the argument that it was not scientific was not valid. Then the confusion about the numbers. People started saying that, look here, I don't remember anyone having visited, the enumerator having visited my house. So it was not, the coverage was not total. So we should not be accepting it. And government had an opportunity to, show the records. Enumerator really visited your house, or if they were not visited for this reason, and therefore even that reason could have been rejected. Third, with regard to the delay, it was conducted in 2015, and what was the point in considering that data 10 years later? Anyway, another survey was due, because according to the law you have to conduct it every 10 years. Now this was conducted in 2015, and the report came to the government in 2024. Just 1 year you wait and another survey was due. Okay. So third reason was something that was valid, but it was still 2024. The government could have technically accepted the previous report and ordered another survey. Now, so the argument here is this: the government should not have taken this, these objections seriously, and government could have gone ahead and accepted the findings of the previous survey, provided it had the political will. Okay. Now, my argument was that political will needs to be unpacked here. What is the idea of political will here? Political will, any government will have only if it sees the support from the people, support from the public. Now, who is to support the government here if the government were to go ahead and accept the report? The OBCs, because primarily it was conducted to identify the backward sections of the population, right? So the backward castes and backward classes, if the Chief Minister had the confidence that the backward castes and backward classes stood strongly behind him, certainly the Chief Minister would have gone ahead and accepted the report. Now, that was not something that the Chief Minister could have been confident about. That was my point. Why? Because OBCs in this, OBCs, even OBC castes, other backward castes, let us not talk about classes. When we say classes, people from other castes, other so-called forward class castes are also part of it. Even the other backward castes could not have been expected to back the Chief Minister strongly on this. The reason being, these castes are very disparate. Politically, they don't have a strong affiliation to the Congress. Of late, they have been moving towards the BJP. So, the OBC castes did not identify themselves very strongly with this exercise. Although that was what was purported to be achieved, the Chief Minister knew it quite well that, if he were to accept the report, if the government were to accept the report, then what was certain was the backlash from the upper caste, dominant caste. They would have ensured that the government was in a dangerous situation. The government was, government would have found itself in a very precarious situation. Their numbers are larger in the assembly. You have 50 odd Lingayat MLAs, 30 odd Okaliga MLAs, whereas you have only 31 OBC MLAs. I am talking here MLAs from all the parties put together, right? So when they had the numbers and they could have threatened the government's stability, the Chief Minister could have counted only on the support of the OBCs on the street. But that was not something which was certain. The opposition from the upper caste was certain, but the support from the OBCs was not certain. And therefore, you could not have expected political will to, come into the picture here. So you asked then, how did Devarajaras do it? Devarajaras had the advantage, one, of the emergency. That was the emergency time. So, he certainly took advantage of the emergency situation, and therefore, to some extent, it was easier for him. Number one. Number two, that was the first ever exercise that was undertaken, and he also made some compromises. It was what was the compromise? The Lingayas were kept out, but the Lingayas were placated in some way by creating another category there where even they could have been accommodated. So some kind of political accommodation was tried there and tried successfully. But there is a difference between what happened in Devaraja's time and what was happening under Siddaramaiah last year. Now, there the question was about the quantum of reservation. Okay, and who was to be included, which castes were to be included in the OBC list for the purpose of reservation. That was the bone of contention there. And it was easier for him to simply say that, okay, if the commission had kept you out, I am going to accommodate you in some way. Okay, and he did it. But here, the opposition was not about that. That part was not discussed at all. The opposition here was about the numbers. Okay, the number, everyone started attacking the validity of the number, and therefore, because it was an exercise that was carried out almost 10 years ago, for the government to convince the people about the validity of numbers, although it could have done it, but it was on a weaker wicket there.
So how do you see things playing out from here? I mean, I think yesterday the chairman of the Backward Classes Commission, Madhusudan Nayak, he has said that they've extended the deadline for the online deadline for the survey so that people who have not participated or refused to participate can still do so. And he has also said that the commission is going to stick to its December deadline to submit the report. So do you think that, how do you see things playing out from here on out?
Yeah. So one thing is clear, which is there is a lot of opposition to the survey, and these forces which are opposing the survey will try their level best to ensure that the survey process is not taken to its logical end. Okay. Now, but this opposition has always been there. The opposition was there for Havnur Commission. The opposition was there for Venkataswamy Commission. Opposition was there for Chinnappa Reddy Commission. And this is only the repetition of what happened in the past. Now, there is one difference, however. The OBC castes this time are a little more mobilized politically around the question of survey, because, last time when the chief minister was almost forced to reject it, the OBCs began to feel a little offended, saying that every time, something, government wants to do something in our favor, and these people are opposing it. So this time, as the survey was on, some efforts were on, not so much by the Congress party, but by various OBC caste organizations and OBC cultural organizations, etc., to mobilize the other backward castes in the state to make them stand firmly behind this survey, right? In fact, that is the only thing which can save it. Otherwise, all kinds of questions will be raised. And I think these people were boycotting the survey and they were not cooperating with the survey, to raise this point later. Now you don't cooperate, you don't participate. And later you can always say that we did not participate. So your exercise was incomplete. It was unscientific, because when people did not participate, how can you say that it is a scientific acceptable data, right? So these questions will be raised later.
Yeah.
In the last survey, people were saying that you didn't come to our house, enumerators did not visit us. So how can we accept the findings? This time the enumerators visited, they say that we are not going to give the data. So in a way, this is some kind of ploy to raise certain objections later to the government accepting the findings, as well as a report which is going to be prepared on the basis of the findings. But if the OBCs this time stand firmly behind the government and say that come whatever may, we want to see the figures. We want to see the findings of the survey. And if they start forcing the government to take certain measures, including restructuring of the reservation formula in the state, then that is the only thing which will ensure this exercise being taken to its logical end. Otherwise, I would expect a lot of questions being raised, a lot of opposition continuing beyond the completion of the exercise of data collection. Data collection, perfectly or imperfectly, at some point in time will have to stop. After that, the findings will be out, the data will be out. Everyone will start questioning the data. And no amount of explanation will satisfy, but strong political support, mobilization of OBCs will silence the critics.
Right. Okay, Professor, thank you so much for answering all my questions. It was good to have you for this interview.
Thank you, Anisha.